Where are we going?
Down the hill into the cavern.
What cavern?
Linda.
Oh, look at, we got people coming out. This is efficiency.
Stuff before you go inside. So Living Caverns is an active limestone cave, and active just means that all the formations that we see inside that we talk about, all of those are still growing and forming. So the main thing that we ask is that you just please don't touch those formations or like the natural cavern walls, just because our skin does have oils on them, and then that color is about to start growing. Also, while we're inside, please no eating, drinking, smoking, or baking. You do have water though, water's perfectly fine. And flash photography is also allowed, so feel free to take pictures with the flash on. If you do take videos though, just try not to use your flash just because there are some other groups in there and it can distract them from their groups. And then
I'm sorry, there's what in there?
Other groups.
Oh, okay.
And then that does also go for any like personal flashlights or like headlamps anyone might have, and a phone flashlight. Only use yours with flash for pictures. And then the last couple of things is just as we walk throughout the cavern, just stay together and watch out for your heads and your shoulders because there are some holes that may pain low and now might stick out. And then I'll make sure that nobody else is getting ready to come out, and if they're not, then
I want one. It's all fun and games until they chew the shoes.
Stop at the orange cone. I don't think so. It looks like it, but it's not.
Is it slimy or just looks slimy?
it's wet. Some of them are kind of a little bit slimy because of the algae, but most of them is. How many of y'all have been here before? Well, I don't know if y'all have seen any pictures like online or anything, but we used to have some fish in here. We used to have like all kinds of like brown trout, rainbow trout, and steppe trout. But as you can tell, most of those fish are gone, and that is because of Hurricane Helene. Whenever Hurricane Helene came through here in September 2024, it flooded the cavern, and when the water was draining, it washed all the fish away. And there is still one fish that's in here somewhere. I haven't seen it today, so I'm not sure exactly where it's at, but it is in here somewhere.
There was some tadpoles.
Tadpoles? Yeah, and yesterday I saw really small fish.
How high did the water get in here?
It was in here. It was about chest level high. But I have no idea how far it was up, like way back in there. Probably almost full. And fish are actually the reason that the cavern was discovered in the first place. Back in 1822, there were a couple of fishermen that were fishing on the outside of the mountain out there. They saw those fish from the hole inside of it, so they crawled through the hole and they discovered this first part of the cavern right here. And the hole that they crawled through was kind of in the same place where the door is now at, and that door is the only entrance and exit in the cavern as well. And then the hallway that we are about to walk under, it is a little bit lower, so you're on the far side. To it, or kind of like 3 different floors to it. There probably isn't anything that's below us right now, but we will see later on the floor that it does open up and there is a lower level. And then there's a level that we're standing on right now, and then we do also have the upper level. Now the thing about the lower level is that it is completely filled up with water. It always has been. So we never really have been able to go down there and like explore how we like to. And we might never be able to. So we don't really know too much about the lower level. But the floor that we're standing on right now is the main level of the cavern. This is where most of our tour takes place, and this one is also the safest level for us to walk around on. And then right up here, this is what we call the ballroom, because the walls and the floors up there are kind of smooth like how they are in a ballroom. That is an upper level room, and that room is big enough to fit some people up there, but there is an issue with it, and that is the fact that the floors are just not strong enough to hold anybody up there. The floors are only about 3 to 4 inches thick, and as you go further on into that room, they only get to about ½ an inch thick. So even though it is big enough to fit some people up there, it's just not strong enough to hold them up there. And then we are going to have a group passing us by right in this little area right here, so if y'all can just take a step over towards that wall. We're going to be passing in groups.
Look at that.
springtime, we see a lot of salamanders and crawdads down here. And then all year long we have cave crickets and cave spiders. And then during the winter time, we have two different types of bats that come in here and hibernate. We have color brown bats, and then we also have tricolored bats. Now we probably won't see those bats today just because they're not in hibernation right now. They've been gone for a couple of months now. But if you do happen to see one, they're nothing to be afraid of because they're only about 2 inches big. And then there is going to be another group passing us by right here, so if y'all can just take a step again over close to the wall, we'll let them pass us by. Yeah. And while the soldiers were living down here, they kept fires going right here so that they could be warm and see and cook and that kind of stuff. Because they had those fires going, that created a lot of smoke. And the smoke didn't really have anywhere else to go, and so it did start to rise throughout all the way to the cracks throughout the mountain. And it made the top of the mountain look like it was on fire. And so that worried everybody that lived up there because they saw the mountain smoking and they thought that it was on fire. So they did contact the authorities, and it took the authorities about 2 weeks before they could really figure out where the smoke was coming from. When they did find the soldiers living down here, they were arrested for treason. And when the soldiers were taken away, they left behind a cobbler's bench and a few different tools. And we think that they were using the tools to like make one of their shoes so that they would have something valuable to trade with other locals for like food and different kinds of supplies to keep them alive while they were living on. And they were able to stay down here without getting caught for about 1.5 years to almost 2 years before they were found. And then there is still a little bit of ash that's right there. Hurricane Helene did cover most of it up with like mud and stuff like that.
That's very sweet. Oh, I'm so sorry.
So again, this is the tallest room that we have inside the whole cavern. It stands at about 23 feet from the floor to the ceiling. And on the ceiling there are some stalactites. Now stalactites, they do have a twin called the stalagmites. They sound the same and they do the same thing, but there is one difference between them, and that is the way that they grow. Stalactites will hold tightly to the ceiling, and then stalagmites will grow up from the ground. And if you've ever seen those before, you know that normally they do have kind of like a pointier shape to them, kind of like how that one right there is pointy. But these stalactites over here are flat on the bottom. And that's because in 1940, there was another flood that came through this area, and it did flood the cavern as well. The water from that flood knocked off the bottoms of those stalactites, and it made them flat. And that flood that happened back then was a lot worse than whenever Hurricane Helene flooded the cavern. Whenever the flood happened back in 1940, it did cause a couple of places inside the cave to collapse, kind of like that area that's over there. That's why you'll see a lot of these like man-made walls that we have built. They built those back then so that while they were getting tours, they wouldn't have those debris from that flood falling on top of them. And then before we make our way into the next room, there are just a couple of quick things about that room. The next room that we're going to go into is optional, and I say that especially if anybody is claustrophobic or you don't like tight spaces. The reason I say that is because that next room is the smallest room in the whole cavern. It's very narrow in there, so if you don't want to go, you don't have to. If you're not sure about whether or not you would like to go, I would go in towards the back of the group just because that room is also a dead end. And so the very first person to go in there will also be the very last one to leave. So if you don't like the sound of that, I would go in towards the back so that you could get out easily if you want to. That room is also the only room that we're allowed to touch anything in, so while we're in there, feel free to mess around if you want to. And then the floor of that room is a metal grate, so if you do have any loose items on you, just hold on to those because if they fall through the metal grate, we're probably not going to be able to get them back. And again, it's optional. If you don't want to go in there, you don't have to. Your turn.
She's pretty squirmy.
She's very squirmy.
Here's some of them stalactites coming off the ceiling up here. Woo, and it's narrow, ain't it? I'm touching it.
Can't help it.
I know.
How can you not touch it?
I want to touch that. Whoa, I
It
just
looks
did because
slimy.
I fell into it. It's not.
I know, it's hard.
Oh,
It looks like it's like slime.
Everybody just try to squeeze in as much as possible for me so I can
Look at you tucked in.
Where'd you come from? I thought she was ahead of us.
I did too. I scare a lot of people right here.
Can y'all keep going?
No.
we're at the end.
You're at the end?
Okay.
Okay.
Alright,
Now
so
what?
for those of you who are standing over that middle grate right now, you guys are standing over a bottomless pool. And I say that because we don't know how far down that body of water under us goes. Now there have been a couple of times when we've tried to find the bottom of it, but so far we haven't been able to. The first time when we tried to find the bottom was in the 1930s, whenever the workers were putting in that metal grate that you're standing on. They got curious as to how far down it goes, and so they dropped down a 250-foot weighted cable, and that cable never did touch the bottom. So we don't know how far down exactly it goes, but we do know that it goes at least 250 feet. And then the other time when we tried to find the bottom was in 2005. A couple of divers went down there, and they only made it about 10 to 15 feet down before it was too tight for them to fit any farther. And that is also the water that is below you as well. A lot of people think that there's like glass over the water because it's so still, but that is the actual water.
It's just stagnant.
Everyone thinks there's glass
You can
over
see
it
the
until
drip.
they drop
There's the
something.
wind.
Yeah, that's cool.
Have y'all had a chance to see it okay at least?
Yes, ma'am.
Just send one of those high-tech cameras down. Like,
Yeah.
I wish.
Looking at them.
I'd like to know.
I mean,
And where is the water?
the little swirls.
What is the rock?
Limestone?
This rock is shady dolomite. And the base of it is limestone, but what makes it different from limestone is the fact that it has like crushed up marine life and dolomite and stuff like that.
That's what we're seeing. Cool.
What did you say about that?
About what?
The room.
So that funny kind of looking formation that's right there, that is what we call the guess what rock, and that is because a lot of people say that it looks like a lot of different things. Most people say that it kind of looks like a pickle or a cactus or a squid, but that is a stalactite, and that is also the oldest and largest stalactite that is inside the whole cavern. And then right over there, that is what we call frozen Niagara because it kind of looks like a frozen waterfall. That is a flowstone deposit, and that one is the oldest and the largest formation in the cavern. And they both are a very bright green color, and that green color comes from two different things. Most of the green is algae, and the algae comes from the lights that we have put in here just makes it how wet the cavern stays. And then there is a little bit of oxidized copper on both of these, but again, most of that green is just algae. And actually, a lot of that algae didn't come in here until after Hurricane Helene happened. A lot of people who have been here before Helene, they said that both of them used to be kind of like a tan color, kind of like how it still is right there. That's what they used to look like. But after Hurricane Helene, that just caused like a really big algae growth throughout the whole cavern, and that is why both of these formations and pretty much everything else in this room is green. And then we are about to make our way into the only upper level room that we have access to. There is a staircase that goes to that room and some low archways in that hallway back there. So just watch out for your heads and be careful on this.
Ouch.
No, I'm good. I'm good. It just, I want to knock my hat. I'm glad I was wearing my hat.
So the room that I'm standing in front of right now is called the Gilkey Room. It's named after a man called John Quincy Gilkey, and he was the man who opened up the cavern to the public back in 1937. And it's kind of hard to fit a lot of people in this room, so I'm going to kind of explain it to y'all what we'll see down here, and then we'll just walk through it together, and I'll give y'all some time to take pictures and look at everything that's in here. But again, the room behind me is called the Gilkey Room. And what you'll see in here on the left-hand side, there's a ledge that's about waist high, and that ledge is called a drip pool, because water is always dripping into it. There are two different types of rocks inside of the drip pool. There's kind of like a smoother, almost like a snake-like looking one. That one's called brimstone. And then there's a different one that kind of looks like ground beef. That one's called cave coral. And if you don't have a chance to And that cake hole down there has a little bit of moss growing on it. And then there's also some more stalactites and stalagmites in here. And then there's all different kinds of minerals. So if y'all do have any questions about anything that you see in here that kind of catches your eye, feel free to ask. I can answer any questions for you. But we'll walk you through now, and I'll give you all some time to take pictures and to look at everything that's in here.
Tenants. Foolish people that get a puppy before a vacation.
I mean, you know, she's a puppy. You can just bring her with you. Everybody likes a puppy.
I'm just worried that we're like pushing it too much.
Oh, she's gonna sleep you.
Yeah.
Go, turn around. Go.
Okay. Thank you. This is really cool. No, they mimic things like this.
Yeah.
Steps. Yeah. Good to know. Yeah.
Yeah.
Don't go there.
A little fun fact about where we're standing right now is that we are standing about 2,500 feet under the ground, and that is because where we are at this point in the cavern, we are standing directly underneath the peak of Mount Minnesota.
Big one? Okay, thank you.
And could y'all imagine if we were half a mile underground and about 700 feet back from the door that we came through and all this lights went out? How scary that would be? Does anyone have an idea of what we're about to do?
Do it. Come on.
Let's do it.
We are going to do a quick little demonstration of total darkness. Before we start that though, do we have everybody off of the back of the stairs?
Yes.
Yeah. And trim your phones.
I will be right back. I'm going to turn off.
Why do you want to be in here? You can't see where you're walking.
Never had fire. Little lit is so cool.
What you have?
It's a really cool.
And then as we get into this hallway right here, if y'all can just take a step over towards the wall, there is going to be another brick casting by right here.
Come here.
We're going to scoot by y'all.
Oh, that's gonna be a cool trip. Yeah, it is.
There's the pickle.
Pickle.
She did say pickle.
Pickle-esque. And one was